And we are live with today's pre-show for our 220-1101 A Plus study group. We are just getting things started here, trying to get the studio all set up. I see folks in the chat room already. Hello, chat room. Hope everybody's doing well. Numbers look good on the stream, so I'm happy with that. So far, so good. I really like it. I really like those. All of the video inputs look really, really good. Really good. Really good. I'm liking it. I'm digging it. And I think I've got the right presentation up here. I'm just doing my final checks to make sure we are in good shape. And it looks like we are. Looks like we're in pretty good condition. Hey, chat room. How's everybody doing? Folks already checking in. Greg's checking in from Mobile, Alabama. Oh, I miss those days living up there in Panhandle. That's something that it's a really fantastic part of the world, that whole Panhandle area. Maybe it's because there's so few people that have seen it or experienced it. Well, I grew up in it, so it has a kind of a special place. It can do no wrong in my world. But those days are behind me, it seems, because now we're in the central part of the state where it's so much easier for the hurricanes to come through. We'll have to see. I haven't really checked hurricane status yet. We're going to do some National Hurricane Center. Let's see if we can open where things are going. Yeah. Sorry, Mobile and us. Sorry, all of Florida. Things are not looking great right now. This thing is all over the place. It goes back. This is where the cone is. That's where they think it is going. Now, obviously, we don't know where over the next coming week it is going to go, but it could affect us. It could affect the next study group. So we'll have to see how that works out. I haven't seen any spaghetti models yet. For those of us here in Florida, we know all about the spaghetti models. Those are the models that on television, they tell you, don't look at those because those are the most accurate view of what could possibly happen. So they don't show us that. They only show you the National Hurricane Center for this. We have about 8 minutes, seven minutes and something, 7 minutes and a quarter before we get started. So we're not quite there yet, but the 1101 will be happening shortly, the study group. So we'll get there. I have all new questions. I really like my performance-based question this month. It is something we're doing a little bit different. I'm making it a little bit harder than usual. I'm giving you a warning now to put the thinking caps on because I will be it's got a little extra. I put a little twist in it. Nothing too crazy, but something that would get us thinking, get us really testing ourselves. Do we know this or not? Which I think is always good. If we're going to have a problem, now's the time to have it. If we're going to not know something, now is the time to not know it because we can easily figure it out and know it and be ready for the exam. So that's how we work. Other folks checking in. Thanks for being here. We got Ian, who is in the south coast of England. We have Columbus, Georgia checking in just up the way from here in Florida. Been to Columbus many times. Some great folks there. I've had some customers there, would visit them. Some finance. There's some manufacturing customers there. That was back when I had a different position than I have now. Now I don't go to Georgia. Now I sit here. I sit right here. I don't do anything in Georgia. I just sit here. We got Houston, Texas. Europe's checking in. Peoria, Illinois. Welcome. We got Fort Irwin, California. Good morning, California. Good to see you here. Thanks for being here. Got a lot happening. There's so much going on right now with finishing up our Network Plus course. And of course, there's some A Plus things happening over the next year or so. I don't think we have to worry about it right now here in July, August, September timeframe. But we do have things that we're working on. There's New York. Good to see you. We got Bloomingdale, Illinois. We got Belgium. Welcome. Lawrenceville, more Georgia. Just moved from New York City to Lawrenceville, up in the Atlanta area. That's a good move. I think that's a good move for you. I'll have to see how things work out. Hey, Raleigh, good to see you. Folks in San Diego and South Africa and Chattanooga. And Tejas is here. London, England. There's Edmonton. Hello, Edmonton. Good to see you. Your weather's actually been pretty nice right now. I know that's going to change. We have some kinfolk up in the Edmonton area, and they just roll with it. That's like not a big deal. I wouldn't make it. I would not make it through a winter in Edmonton. I can't. I'm from Florida. I don't know what would happen. Would I melt? Would I freeze? Would I just be in a little ball crying on the floor? That's probably what it would be. It would be more like that. Hello, Liverpool, Trinidad and Tobago. We've got, is it Tobago? I never know. We've got Puerto Rico. Good to have you here. We've got Sacramento checking in. There's lots going on. Oh, there's Michigan, or is that Wisconsin? I never know. Which one's the hand? Isn't it Michigan? I think it is. You can tell. I can tell I'm a Floridian, right? Not only do I not know what I'm talking about, but yeah, that's Michigan. I think I got that one right. Hello, Dallas and Houston. A lot of Texans checking in. Thanks for being here. We'll get started in just a couple minutes. This is not the study group. Have I ever visited Europe? I used to have a position where I was a worldwide technical marketing manager, and I would travel to Europe quite a few times during the year. So we have been to Europe. We've been the UK, Scotland. We've been to Belgium, did some presentations there, France, Germany. Where else? There have been a couple of other places in there around the way. But yeah, love it over there. It's fantastic. Always like going over to Europe. There's always something interesting going on there. 3 minutes to go. We're almost there, everybody. We're almost getting started. Let me do one last check here. I think we're in pretty good shape. Presentation needs to be up. Those all look good. Those are my screens up here. So that's what I'm looking at. And that looks really good. Really, really good. We're going to see how things go here. A lot of folks are checking in online. You know, I didn't put the URL. There's the URL if you want to put a pin in our virtual pin cushion, our virtual map. You can put your virtual pin in the map wherever you happen to be. So the folks are checking in. We got some folks in India. There's South Africa. We got folks in the U.S. that have checked in. There's the Canadians. Someone out here? No, the Galapagos are up here. So I don't know what's down here. It's the secret research center in Antarctica. That's where the extra gate is. Don't tell anyone. I think the Russians they've gotten a hold of that gate. And we are 2 minutes away from getting started. We'll get things going. Miami is here. It's a little steamy here in Orlando as well. We're checking in for you here in the central part of the state. Nothing like the humidity in Miami. I lived in Miami for about 10 years. Technically lived in Miami Lakes area, Hialeah, Pembroke Pines, and Miramar. In 10 years, I moved a lot, apparently. Moved 4 times. So I lived in each city for a little bit. Oh, we got a lot to go through today. I'm really excited about the questions. I think we got a lot of good information to go over on the Core 1. We will be taking your questions in the second hour. You'll see a tab at the top of your screen if you go to this thing, professormesser.com/QA, right there. That one that's behind me. Go to that, and you can submit questions for the second hour. So the first hour, I ask you questions. Second hour, you ask me questions. So we'll do that. Russ says, want to let you know I'm A+ certified as of last week. Thanks for your content. Congratulations on your new A+ certification. Fantastic news. And now you can use this as one of your CEUs if that's how you plan on renewing. So you'll get a little bit of a jump start on the whole thing, which is really good. Let's get that. Actually, I'm going to leave this here. We'll get that here. We're going to change that screen in a moment. I think we're in good shape. I think we are ready to get this party going. We just need to, I see it's even counting down on my screen. I should probably pay attention to these things. So it is about time to get this thing going. I'm going to change this. We're going to go to Keynote. We're going to choose the Keynote sharing remote. We got a green light. We're going to hit the green light. I think that means we're ready, everybody. Let's do a live stream. And away we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the August 2024 Professor Messer 220-1101. That is the Core 1 A+ study group. This is where I have questions for you that come directly from the Core 1 A+ exam objectives. We get to see just how much of those objectives you happen to know. It's always fun to see how we do with understanding information from the Core 1 exam. And as we go through this, keep in mind that I will not only be asking you questions from the Core 1, but you will be able to ask me questions as well. You can do all of this, answer the questions, and you can, of course, ask the questions in the Vevox front end that we have for this. Instead of going through a lot of different numbers and letters to be able to get to this, there is an app, but the app effectively sends you over to the web these days. So you can go to professormesser.com/QA. So pop open a new browser window, head over to that URL, and you can simply stay on that URL to be able to answer the questions that we're doing today. Also let you know that when you go through this, there will at the top of the screen be that tab, and you can click on that tab to determine what you would like to choose for or submit for the second hour. If you have a question for me about technology, about certifications, about IT in general, or about anything, you're welcome to put that in those questions. What we like to do first, though, is see how well you're able to get into that link. And one of the ways you can do that is with what we call our rewind question. The rewind question is a question from last month, and we get to see how well you're able to remember the question from last month, or at least the answer. And then also we make sure you're able to get and answer these questions. This question asks, a cloud app is accessible simultaneously from many different data centers. Which of the following characteristics would be most important for this app? Would it be non-metered, file synchronization, internal cloud, desktop as a service, or rapid elasticity? Now, the one standing rule that we have for these study groups is that we answer by visiting the link that's on your screen. You go to professormesser.com/QA to lock in your answer. Please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room. Instead, you want to go to that link. You'll be able to see the question and all of the answers on that link, and we will come back to that question in just a moment. I want to thank everyone for being here. We really can't do these study groups if you don't show up. So thank you for either being here live, or if you're watching this on a replay, thank you for watching the replay as well. We have other things that we do during the month where you can find us. Of course, if you would like to see all of our absolutely free training videos for A+, they are available. Every minute of every video is available on our YouTube channel. You can go to professormesser.com/YouTube, where you can watch the videos. And if you would like to subscribe while you're there, we would like that even better. Don't forget about our daily pop quiz questions. You can either get those through email from the main page of our site. There's a link, or you can visit our Twitter page at professormesser.com/Twitter. If you like your questions with a pretty picture, we also have the same question available over on Instagram. You can find that at professormesser.com/Instagram. And we have A+ questions, a brand new A+ question every day of the business week, Monday through Friday. Always have a new question for you. If you are watching this video and you're already certified, then you may be watching this and you may be able to earn 1 hour of a webinar category CEU. The way that you would earn that CEU is by going to, well, you'll have to listen. I don't want to tell you yet. You have somewhere in this first hour, I will explain to you how this happens. The process for going through and submitting your request for the CEU is part of the CEU process itself. And by me sort of hiding that somewhere within this first hour, it makes it so that I know you must have watched it to be able to submit the CEU. So we'll do that in a moment to be able to figure out how to make that happen. So listen in sometime in this first hour. You'll hear it when we get to that point. The A+ exams, you have to pass 2 separate exams during your A+ certification. These exams are currently the 220-1101 and the 220-1102. These were released in April the 20th of 2022, so we expect an estimated exam retirement timeframe somewhere around October of 2025. As we get closer to that date, we'll be able to sync that up a little bit better so that we know a more appropriate time frame. But that's our estimate at the moment. Both of these exams are 90 minutes in length. There are a total of 90 questions that you could possibly get as a maximum. You might get fewer than 90 questions, and you need to earn a 675 for your 1101, and that is on a scale between 100 and 900. Now, even though we think that this exam will be retiring in October of 2025, if you were to pass this exam right now as we sit here in 2024, remember that those 2 dates are very different. One is an exam retirement. The other one is your certification that you earn. So as soon as you pass your 2 exams, your certification is good for 3 years. Really doesn't matter what they do to the exam. At that point, you've already passed it. So the goal is to pass those 2 exams, get your certification, and you are locked in for 3 years. And there are easy ways to renew this during that 3-year period. So don't worry about that. Today, we're going to talk about topics that come from the 220-1101 exam objectives. The questions that we have for you today cover mobile devices, networking, hardware, virtualization and cloud computing, and hardware and network troubleshooting. So we have quite a mix of different questions. If you want to come back next week, we have our 1102 study group. There'll be a completely different set of topics for that one. We'll have to wait until next week to see what questions we have for you on there. Also let you know that sometime if you are using a podcast listening app, or if you are you use a third-party service to be able to listen to these afterwards, you can, of course, visit our podcast page at professormesser.com/podcast, and you can add that to your favorite podcast listening program. But if you're on Spotify or some other streaming service, you can just look for Professor Messer, search for that. You'll be able to see our podcast show up in there as well. And if there is a streaming service that you like to use that we are not on, let me know, and I'll see about getting our monthly study groups added to that as well, something that might help you during your studies. So find out more, go to that podcast link. Don't forget that also this is a live stream that will be archived immediately after we're done. I hit the stop button. It's something that happens behind the scenes, and you can find all of our previous study groups available on our YouTube channel at professormesser.com/YouTube. You'll also notice that about a day after we do these study groups, we have these timestamps that appear in the YouTube video description. These are not done through those awful, inaccurate pseudo AI systems. This is done by an actual actual intelligence. My marketing manager, Lori, is listening to this replay now. Hey, Lori. She's going through and putting these timestamps in. So we know that the timestamps that you see in the YouTube video description are absolutely accurate, as they should be. So find out more by visiting this link or visiting any of our previous YouTube live stream events that have been archived, and you'll see those timestamps are available going back years for this. Something that can help you find what you're looking for just a little bit faster. You can also find us when we're not here live. Find us over on Discord. Go to professormesser.com/Discord, and you can, of course, find the link there. We have tons of people in our Discord that are chatting, they're studying. We have ways that you can interactively create a study room that you control so that you can manage and study with other people and give all the different control and management options specific to that room. You're effectively the administrator of that room, which makes it a very, very safe and easy place to study. And you can invite people. They can join in automatically. You've got lots of options. It's a fantastic community. We would love it if you joined us. You can find that at professormesser.com/Discord. Now, eventually, you will need to take your A+ exam. And of course, you can go to the CompTIA website and pay full price to take that exam. Or you can go to professormesser.com/vouchers if you happen to be in the US or Canada, and you can get these vouchers at a discounted rate. Why pay full price when you can get a bit of a discount? Find out more by visiting us on professormesser.com/vouchers. Oh, but wait, there's more. If you purchase your voucher from our website, I will give you even more free stuff. you will get absolutely free a copy of my Exam Hacks ebook. This is an ebook that I wrote where I've taken all of the tips and tricks that I've accumulated through the years, through the numerous industry certification exams that I have taken, and I have documented all of the tips and tricks I could possibly think of for this CompTIA exam. You can absolutely find out more. We'd love it if you were to take advantage of this discount, and I could give you a free copy of that book. Find out more at professormesser.com/vouchers. Let's go back to the question I asked earlier, which was a cloud app is accessible simultaneously from many different data centers. Which of the following characteristics would be most important for this app? Would it be non-metered, file synchronization, internal cloud, desktop as a service, or rapid elasticity? What did you choose? 63% of you say file synchronization, or as we say here, file synchronization. We also have rapid elasticity. 21% of you chose that one. This is very similar to the numbers we saw last month. And then we have single digits, 5% for desktop as a service, 5% for internal cloud, and 4% for non-metered. Well, when you start talking about rapid elasticity, it sure sounds good. I love the term. It rolls off the tongue. But for the purposes of having an app available in many different data centers, we don't necessarily have to be elastic. Elasticity refers to the ability to scale up these systems very quickly and even scale these systems down just as fast. Well, that's very useful if things get very busy or things slow down, but we were not talking about any type of load or contention. We were talking about accessing an app from multiple data centers at the same time. And if you're doing that, you're going to need some type of synchronization of the data between those data centers so that anyone visiting one data center will be able to see exactly the same thing as people who are visiting a different data center. That file synchronization becomes extremely important when you have multiple sources or multiple front ends that people can visit. And in this particular case, if we're worried about a cloud app simultaneously being accessed from many different data centers, then we want to be sure that all of that data is constantly synchronized and up to date. Otherwise, people would be seeing different things at different times in different locations, and we don't want that. Now, the rapid elasticity, as we've already said, doesn't apply. So although we had 21% of you chose that one, not the answer we were looking for. And then we've got non-metered, internal cloud, desktop as a service, other important cloud characteristics, but not any that apply back towards having multiple data centers and being able to use them. In this case, I think most of us, 63% of us, did choose the right answer. It is indeed file synchronization to be able to work with those. So hopefully that's given you not only a reminder of the things that we did last week, but it also should now get you into answering the questions. You now see the process we go through, and all you have to do is stay on that page. The questions will update themselves automatically behind the scenes. Well, at this point in the study group is where we need to do some new questions. And as many of you know, on our live study groups, the first new question of the month is a performance-based question. Now, for those of you that have not taken this exam before, you may not even realize that there are different kinds of questions that are posed to you at the beginning of the exam. The question we just did was a multiple choice question. So there was a question and then multiple answers that you could choose from. Even if you didn't know the answer, you could take a guess and maybe at least get a 20% chance of getting that one right. But what CompTIA does at the very beginning of the exam is they ask you questions, about a handful of questions that are not multiple choice. The performance-based questions are effectively any type of question they want to ask that's not multiple choice. So it might be fill in the blank. It might be a matching question. It might be a drag and drop question. You might have to put things in a particular order. They can ask questions a lot of different ways. But fortunately, the information they're going to ask you comes directly from the exam objectives. So it won't be on topics you don't know. And I think if you know your material, it really doesn't matter how they ask the question, you'll be able to answer it without a problem. So I have for you today a matching question. This matching question is a little bit different than the matching questions that we have done in the past. This one we are matching twice. Online, you'll see this as a fill-in-the-blank question, but what we are going to do is select the matching protocol and the matching port number for the following 4 descriptions. Now, again, as a reminder, your answers go to the link at the bottom of your screen, professormesser.com/QA. Please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room. So we have 4 different descriptions here. The first one is install a new device driver on a remote Windows server. And I have for you a number of different protocols and a number of different port numbers. You have to match both of these. They are not matched already. So IMAP, RDP, LDAP, SNMP, SMB, DNS, and DHCP. And then I have another set of port numbers, which are 161, 53, 3389, 445, 67, 143, and 389. You need to match both those first columns, and they are not already matched. So you have to find not just the protocol name, but you have to find the correct port number and match that finally to the description. So you got a few there. The second description on our list is authenticate all users on a VPN service. What protocol is that? What port number is that? The third is automatically assign DNS IP addresses on a local subnet. What is the protocol? What is the port number? And lastly, view and send emails from a desktop and mobile phone. Is it one of those 2 in that mix? So you have a number of options here to choose from. One of the things you'll notice, though, is there will be 3 of these, 3 protocols, and 3 port numbers will be left over. So you have to figure out which ones of these will be left over at the end. So now we really have to know our port number information. If all you've been studying is port number and the protocol, you may be having a bit of a challenge on this one because CompTIA expects you to know more than simply the port number and the protocol. Figure that out. We'll have to see what that is. Oh, we got lots to go through. There are a number of people that are putting questions into the chat. These questions are probably good ones we should cover at the end of the study group. I would highly recommend you click that tab at the top when you visit professormesser.com/QA and submit your question there, because those are the ones I'm going to sift through when we get there at the end of this study group at the beginning of hour number 2. So make sure that you submit those questions because I'll forget them. They'll slide through this chat. I'll see a great question and think that's a great question for the after show. And then I completely forget the question for the after show. So please submit those. And that way I'm sure to see it when you go there. Okay. Have a number of people. This is very slowly being submitted to this list. This is going to be a good one. So let's go through these again. We have install a new device driver on a remote Windows server, authenticate all users on a VPN service, automatically assign DNS IP addresses on a local subnet, and view and send emails from a desktop and mobile phone. And for these, you need to choose the right protocol, which would be IMAP, RDP, LDAP, SNMP, SMB, DNS, and DHCP. Then you also need to choose the right port number, because these port numbers are not synced up. Is the port number 161, 53, 3389, 445, 67, 143, or 389? Okay, so a couple of steps we have to go through to answer this performance-based question, but I don't think this is too far away from what you might see on an actual exam. Many of these performance-based questions in the actual exam have multiple steps associated with them, although some of the harder ones that you would run into might even pull from different domains and combine that all into a single question. Here we're talking about one single section of one domain. So made it a little bit easier for you too. If you think you know the answer, go to professormesser.com/QA. That's the link that is on your screen right here at the bottom. Feel free to go to that link and submit your answers. Please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room. You want to submit everything there. Port numbers is a challenging one. I see it's kind of slowly being submitted. A number of you are going through the process. I'm going to wait a couple of seconds here to get another couple of answers in, and then we're going to shift over and see if you got these right. This might be a good one to go through. This is a question I think that would be good to have on something like a flashcard. However, you have to make sure you include all of the important items in the flashcard. And I think that might be getting people a little bit messed up on this one, because we've got all we need to be able to answer the questions, but do we really know what these do? Do we really know what the protocols provide for us? How would you implement these technologies in a network? And that's the important step. And that's the thing CompTIA is going to expect you to know when you sit down for this exam. Let's step through each one of these and see what we think the answer is. We want to select the matching protocol and port number. Let's start with the first one, which is install a new device driver on a remote Windows server. So there's lots of ways to do that. There's lots of things you can go through with this process, but there's only one protocol in this list that would have clearly allowed you to perform this function, and that would be RDP, the Remote Desktop Protocol. You're on a help desk, you're going to be doing this all the time. Someone calls up and says, I just got a new printer, but the printer's not set up in my Windows config. No problem. Let me remote in and let's add the printer. We'll make sure it works, but I'll take control of your desktop. And when you take control of the desktop, you are using the RDP protocol, Remote Desktop Protocol, to be able to do that. And what port number do we use for RDP? We use TCP 3389. So there is our first combination. Knowing how to remote desktop is an important one, and that is the protocol and the port number that we would use for performing that function. Next on our list is authenticate all users on a VPN service. Most of us are doing this. If you're connecting through a VPN, one of the first things it asks you is to authenticate. So you need to put in a username, a password, maybe some other type of authentication mechanism, some other factor that you would need to add into this mix. But behind the scenes, it's going to check all that information. Well, how does it check your username and password? How does it know that you're using the right username and password? Well, your VPN concentrator is going to communicate to some type of directory service. Usually this might be Microsoft's Active Directory, but this could be a different kind of service like Radius. It could be a service like TACAX, or it could be a service like LDAP. And LDAP is the lightweight directory access protocol. It's in the name. The directory is right there in the protocol name itself. And LDAP by default uses the port number of 389. Now, I think that is a very common way to authenticate. If you're on a Windows network, it's a very common way because Active Directory has an LDAP front end, has an LDAP front end that allows an LDAP compatible application like the one that we're using with this VPN service to directly access the Active Directory database, which is incredibly useful and not just used for authentication, but many different purposes as well. Let's go to the third one on our list, which is automatically assign DNS IP addresses on a local subnet. Anytime you see the automatic assignment of IP addresses, you can probably think to yourself that there is some type of dynamic host configuration protocol being used, or DHCP. That is certainly what we would be using here. But now we have to remember what port number DHCP uses. One of those port numbers is 67. The other port number used by DHCP is port 68. But 67 was the only one I put in this list because I didn't want to give away that this was one that had two different port numbers. So 67 certainly fits into this mix, and that is one that is used by DHCP along with port 68. And the fourth description on our list is view and send emails from a desktop and a mobile phone. This is something most of us do all the time. We're on our desktop, we're on our laptop, we're on our mobile phone, we're on our tablet, and somehow our email systems are all synchronized together. When you delete a message on one device, it's deleted on the other device. What protocol is doing that behind the scenes? We want to know whenever we're working with these systems that we're using the correct protocols. In this case, it would be IMAP. IMAP is a protocol that's very commonly used to be able to synchronize between all of these. Certainly is made for the type of mobile environments that we have today. If you're not using a browser-based front end to your email, then I'll bet you're probably using something like IMAP or something very similar to IMAP to be able to view and send emails from a desktop and mobile phone. The key here is to be able to view them, not just send them. And so that's why in this case, it would not be something like SMTP, although you'll notice I did not include SMTP as part of the questions. I also didn't include POP3. So some of the other protocols that you might run into, this is clearly the one you should have chosen. And IMAP by default uses port numbers 143 because I love you, IMAP, for making the process of sending and receiving and reading my emails synchronized across all of these systems so easy to use. Well, that means we had some that we did not choose. There were some protocols that we did not include with this. For example, we did not have in our mix SNMP. SNMP, and of course, the last three port numbers I had in this list also matched the last three we didn't use. So for extra credit, let's see how we do. Just in your mind, you don't have to submit this online. There's nothing you have to put in. But SNMP, what port number does SNMP use? It uses by default port 161. We have another protocol we did not choose in this list, which would be SMB, the server message block. Server message block used by Windows, primarily used by Windows, to be able to transfer files and print systems and print jobs between all of these printers on our network, very commonly used for file shares. SMB by default uses port 445. That is the direct TCP connection for SMB. And then lastly, we also did not choose DNS, the domain name system. DNS is one that uses port number 53. Port number 53 for DNS. So SNMP is the Simple Network Management Protocol. That is a protocol commonly used by network management stations to be able to query, monitor, and check in on the availability of network devices like servers, routers, switches. It's used behind the scenes to be able to do that. We have SMB, the server message block. We already talked about Windows using that to transfer files. And then DNS 53, the domain name system commonly used to resolve an IP address from a name or vice versa, the name from the IP address. But those are the protocols that we did not choose in this list. Instead, installing a new device driver on a Windows server is RDP 3389. Authenticating our users on a VPN service is LDAP 389. Automatically assigning DNS IP addresses on a local subnet is DHCP port 67 and port 68. And viewing and sending emails from a desktop and mobile phone, the only available choice we had was IMAP port number 143. Well, hopefully you were able to get through that multi-step performance-based question and combine both the port number and the protocol together with the correct description. Hopefully that will give you some ideas of things that you can study if you're planning to take your Core 1 exam. Let's now shift gears back to a multiple choice based question. Next on our list is this question that asks, a single drive in a RAID 5 array has failed. Which of the following would be the best way to recover from this drive failure? Would we replace all drives and restore from backup, replace the bad drive and synchronize the array, replace all but one drive and synchronize the array, replace the bad drive and restore from backup, or replace all drives and synchronize the array? If you think you know the answer, go to professormesser.com/QA. That's the link that is on your screen, and lock in your answer. Hopefully a number of you have worked with RAID 5, or at least you're familiar with RAID 5, or you know what the term means and how it works. You'll be able to choose the right answer from this list. See how well you know this one. RAID is one of those things we need to know for our exam. RAID 5 is one of those RAID formats we need to know. There's a number of RAID categories we need to know for the exam. There's a lot of RAID categories. Fortunately, it's a limited number that we need to know for our exam. Those numbers, of course, are listed in the CompTIA Exam Objectives. That is an official document from the folks at CompTIA. It's free. You can download it from the CompTIA website at any time. Let's see. A number of you are locking in your answers here. I don't want to go too fast, but I want to make sure we keep things moving here. Lock in your answer. Go to professormesser.com/QA to lock it in. Let's see how you did on this one. The question again asks, a single drive in a RAID 5 array has failed. Which of the following would be the best way to recover from this drive failure? Would we replace all drives and restore from backup? Replace the bad drive and synchronize the array? Replace all but one drive and synchronize the array? Replace the bad drive and restore from backup? Or replace all drives and synchronize the array? Let's find out what you chose. 63%, almost identical to the first question we got, is replace the bad drive and synchronize the array. But 34% of you, over a third of you, say replace the bad drive and restore from backup. That's what we would do. Almost nobody, 1% said replace all drives and restore from backup. 1% said replace all but one drive and synchronize the array. And 0% said replace all drives and synchronize the array. That would be kind of tough to replace all of those. Well, recovering from RAID can vary depending on what RAID type you are using. So I have a chart that is in my video under troubleshooting storage devices where I document these 4 RAID types: RAID 0, RAID 1, RAID 5, and RAID, what we call RAID 10. Sometimes you'll hear it referred to as RAID 1 plus 0. There are a certain number of drives that you have to be able to run those RAID types. That's not our question. But the question we have is about what you do if there's a failure. With RAID 0, there's no redundancy. So if you lose a drive, you've lost all your data. You would have to recover from a backup to recover from a RAID 0 drive failure. RAID 1, the array will continue to work as long as one drive is operational. That's because with RAID 1, there are 2 drives containing identical information. And if you lose one of the physical drives, that other drive is still up and running and it contains exactly the same info. That is complete redundancy. An exact duplicate, we refer to this in the RAID world as mirroring. Mirroring. And in RAID 5, you need 3 or more drives for that. Again, all drives can be operational except for one. You can lose one drive out of RAID 5. The system will continue to operate and run normally. Very often, no one on the network even knows there was a failure. You lose a drive with RAID 1, nobody knows. You lose a drive with RAID 5, nobody knows. In fact, with RAID 10 or RAID 1 plus 0, you can lose more than one drive as long as the drives that you are losing are from the set of mirrors that are there. We're not going into a lot of RAID 10 with this question, but in each one of the RAID 1, RAID 5, and RAID 1 plus 0, you'll notice that you can lose a drive but still be up and running. That's an important thing for this question. Let's go back to the question because it said a single drive in a RAID 5 array has failed. A single drive and it's RAID 5. And as I mentioned, that one of the things that is useful about this is that we know that the system is still running. Users may not even know a drive has failed. You've gotten a message on your management station. You've gotten a text message. You've gotten an email and it says, check this server because it's reporting that a drive has failed. So now it's up to you to fix the problem. You need to replace the bad drive, but what's the best way to do it? Let's look at the 2 that people chose: replace the bad drive and synchronize the array, or replace the bad drive and restore from backup. These are almost the same thing, except for that last part. One is to synchronize the array and the other is to restore from backup. Well, if the system is still running and all of your data is still there and the users have no idea that anything has changed, all you did was lose a drive, the system is still up and running, you don't have to restore from backup. You didn't lose any data. Nothing's missing. In fact, nobody even knows that anything is different. What you really want to do is replace that bad drive. And normally the RAID array that you are using will either automatically begin to rebuild that RAID array with the brand new drive, or you click a button and say, synchronize the array, please. And it will synchronize the whole array. It might take a number of hours to synchronize that to the drive that you're using, depending on how much data you have and depending on the size of your drives. But it is a very easy way to simply just slide in the new drive. It starts synchronizing, you're done. You can walk away. And as long as you don't lose another drive before the system is synchronized, you are up and running. Nobody knows that anything ever happened. Now, restoring from backup is a relatively important process to keep in mind because it's going to cause you some downtime. It's going to cause an outage. While you're restoring it, you've got to wait till that restoration is complete for anybody to gain access to their data. Why would you take people's access away of the data that's already there? Because it's RAID 5. That was your whole point for using RAID 5 from the very beginning, after all. So you do not need to restore from backup with RAID 5 because you only lost one drive. There's no data lost. There's no data missing. You don't lose any data that may have been missed since your backup date. Much more effective and much more efficient to simply synchronize the array. Now, what about these other answers that were here? 1% said replace all drives and restore from backup. Why are you replacing all drives? Only one of them failed. And why are you restoring from backup when you don't need to? RAID 5 doesn't require you to restore from backup if all you lost was a single drive. However, if you're replacing all drives, yeah, you're going to have to restore from backup if you did that. So you would have no choice. That's not our situation here, though. Replacing all but one drive and synchronizing the array. That one I just kind of threw in as a ridiculous statement. Why would you swap all of the drives but one of them? I don't know. That's not what you would do either. In fact, when you're replacing all but one drive, you're taking the data away. You're now breaking the RAID 5 array because you've lost more than one drive. There's no way to even synchronize the array after that. The array doesn't exist anymore. You broke it. So that would not be a valid question. That's just two bad things to do. Do not replace all but one drive, and then do not try to synchronize the array. Not what you want to do. And then lastly, we have replace all drives and synchronize the array. That is another good one that if you are in the process of fixing a bad drive, why are you replacing all of them? That's not what you should do either. And again, if you're replacing all the drives, there's no array left to synchronize. The answer here, the best answer, the one we wanted, was indeed replace the bad drive and synchronize the array. That is the correct answer, and 63% of you got that one absolutely correct. Okay, let's keep this moving. Let's do another question. Next on our list is this one. And this question asks, a company would like employees to tap their badge on a laptop as an authentication factor. Which of the following would be the best choice for this task? Would it be 802.11, Bluetooth, NFC, encrypted key, or biometrics? Got a few choices. A company would like employees to tap their badge on a laptop as an authentication factor. Which of the following would be the best choice for this task? Would it be 802.11, Bluetooth, NFC, encrypted key, or biometrics? If you think you know the answer, go to ProfessorMesser.com/QA, lock in your answer, see what you think the answer might be on this one. If you think you know, please answer at that link. Please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room. We will figure out what the answer happens to be. And unfortunately, this is one where or not unfortunately, I hope fortunately that we all lock this one in. I feel like sometimes I need to throw a gimme in there, and hopefully this is one that is a gimme, and figuring out the details from this one. Let's see how well you did with this one. The question asks, a company would like employees to tap their badge on a laptop as an authentication factor. Which of the following would be the best choice for this task? Would it be 802.11, Bluetooth, NFC, encrypted key, or biometrics? And let's see what you chose on this one. We can see, yes, I like the gimmies. 92% of you say NFC. Although, what if we all got it wrong? Didn't think about that. We all picked the same thing. We'll find out. We didn't all pick the same thing. 3% said an encrypted key. 1% said biometrics. 1% said Bluetooth. And nobody said 802.11. Not what you would choose. Well, the key here is nothing is happening. We're not authenticating to this system until we get all the way up to this device. And when we get up to this device, then we tap our badge, and only then does it authenticate us. Doesn't authenticate us from 10 feet away. Doesn't authenticate us for being able to access these systems from another room. We have to come right to the laptop and almost physically or even physically touch our access badge, our ID badge, we touch it to the laptop itself. And the best technology for doing things like that is near field communication. It's in the name itself. It's near. It's a near field connection. It's not one that occurs 10 feet away. Can't use NFC very easily from 10 feet away. You can't do it from another room. Can't use NFC from another room. You really do have to be very close. For those of you that have used NFC to purchase things at the store, you use your phone, you use your smartwatch, you put it up to, you figure out, okay, where in this terminal do I put it? Okay, right here. Beep. You really have to be very close to it to be able to do that. So that gives you an idea of some of the techniques and some of the features you can use. This is built into a number of devices like your smartphone, like your smartwatch, but there are also laptops and other devices where the NFC reader is built into the laptop itself specifically to use as an authentication factor. That's what it is there for. So you often see these types of things in environments where there might be a warehouse where you walk up to a terminal and it recognizes that you're nearby, or you tap it because you're nearby. You don't have to type anything into the keyboard. Hospital workstations are set up this way very commonly. So different technologies to be able to use this, but that is a very good example of being able to take a technology like NFC that we commonly associate with a checkout process at a store. You can use that same technology to be able to use it as an authentication factor on a laptop. That is the right answer. Near field communication. If you answered that, 92% of you did. You got that one absolutely correct. Well done. Well, as you've already seen, there are tons of topics that are included in the Core 1 and the Core 2 exam. We've already talked today about networking and port numbers and NFC and some security. We haven't even talked a lot about cloud computing yet. We might get to that today. Laptops, hardware, security, it's all in the A+ exam. There's tons of things you have to keep track of. And if you were to look at my course, I have 137 A+ videos. That's a lot of videos to expect anyone to have to go through. It's 19 hours of content. So I realize that a lot of you are going through the videos, and I would hope that many of you do. But I realize also that not everybody has time to go through every single video. So what I've created are a set of notes that summarize the information contained in all of those videos. These are my 220.11.01 course notes, and they have inside the course notes all of the text from these videos, the important graphics, the important charts, the important tables. They are all in these course notes. And not only are there digital versions that you can get, like you see on the screen, there are also physical versions. This is an identical version to the one you see on the screen. It's a book. This is what a book looks like. It's a printed piece of information. It is a softback book press, and you can see it's a full color setup. It's got exactly the information that's in there. Some people like to have the physical version of these books, so that is also available to you. If you choose the physical edition, like I'm holding in my hand, that means I need to ship it to you. But when you purchase the physical edition, while you're waiting on that delivery, you get full access to the digital edition for free. So another thing that can help you with your studies today, and it can also help you with your studies when this is delivered to your mailbox. These are all available in my course notes. If you want to know more about those, you can follow the links on my website or visit professormesser.com/1101 notes. Let's do some more questions. This next question on our list asks, a network administrator has identified an issue with an Ethernet router interface. Which of the following was used to confirm this problem? Was it A, cable tester, inductive probe, punch down tool, tone generator, or loopback plug? A network administrator has identified an issue with an Ethernet router interface. Which of the following was used to confirm this problem? Was it a cable tester, an inductive probe, a punch down tool, a tone generator, or a loopback plug? If you think you know the answer, please no answers in the chat room. Instead, follow the link on your screen to visit professormesser.com/QA. See if you happen to know what that answer is. We were just talking about course notes. Some folks in the chat room were saying, do you have course notes for the Network Plus 009 that was just released soon? Not about a month ago? Yeah, I sure do. They're on the website. Of course we do. And we even have a large number of videos already out. I think I have over 30 videos already out. Maybe it's 20 something videos already out for the Network Plus N10009. The links to all of those are on the website. You can go to professormesser.com, follow the index there. There's also a viewing list, a playlist, a video list on the YouTube. You can find that out on professormesser.com/YouTube. It's all there for you to go through to do all of your Network Plus. Network Plus 009, very similar to 008. There's some content there that's new. Some things are different, but there's a lot of similarities there. We can talk about that later if you'd like to have a rundown of what those similarities or differences might be. Let's see how you did with this question that asked, a network administrator has identified an issue with an Ethernet router interface. Which of the following was used to confirm this problem? Is it cable tester, inductive probe, punch down tool, tone generator, or loopback plug? What did you choose? Let's find out. To be able to do this well, 66% of you say the answer is loopback plug. Was this a gimme? I don't know. Was that the right answer? I'm not sure. We'll find out in a moment. 17% of you said the answer is cable tester is how you would confirm an issue with an Ethernet router interface. 8% said tone generator would find that. 6% said an inductive probe would find that. And then less than 1% say a punch down tool is how you can find that particular problem. Well, with 66%, I want to go with what everybody chose. I want to go with loopback plug. And if you are one of the folks that chose loopback plug, I'm sorry to say, you got it absolutely right. That is exactly the right answer. That is how you would test a physical interface to see how well it is operating. And it's because if you were to look at a connection between two devices, and you look at the statistics for that connection, you might see the error messages or error counters might be increasing. The error counters that are there might give you an idea that there's some kind of problem between these two devices, because I see the error counters, such as CRC counters, are increasing. And we're wondering, is it the cable between these two devices? Is it Ethernet? Is it serial? What are we doing? Is it a fiber connection between those two? Maybe there's a problem with the fiber. Maybe there's a problem with the copper. We don't know. Or perhaps the problem is with one of the interfaces on the routers that are on both sides of this. But we don't know yet. Well, how could we know? Well, we would need to test the interfaces and we would need to test the cable. In this case, we want to be able to test the interface by using a loopback plug. There are different loopback plugs for different types of connections, but these are designed to take all of the data going out of one interface. For example, maybe we have data coming out of port 1, and it is flipping that data and sending it right into port 3. Here's a very simple one using a serial loopback plug because it only has 2 wires associated with it. But you could create a loopback plug for Ethernet with all 8 if you wanted to. It would look like this. So it's really just taking the data and looping it back directly into itself. Well, how does that help? How does that really tell you that the interface is good or bad? Well, because we're sending a known quantity out port 1. Maybe we're sending 11111, 11111. And then we're looping it back. And when it's received in pin 3, we will then look to see what we receive. Did we receive back 11111, 11111? If we did, we can think, well, the interface is probably okay. But if we get back 11111, 11110, something went wrong because we did not send out anything with a 0 at the end, yet what we received back in on this tiny little loopback plug was a 0 at the end. So now we can either think to ourselves, we either have a bad loopback plug, which would be unlikely, or perhaps more likely, especially given the problem that we ran into, the issue is with the interface, either not sending the right data or not receiving the right data. So that's how we would use loopback plugs. They are incredibly useful. You can never find one when you need one, so please put them somewhere nearby your routers and your switches, or have a very clearly marked box, loopback plugs, and have everybody know where those are. It will help you so much. There's loopback plugs for fiber. There's loopback plugs for copper. You can put a lot of different loopback plugs in there. Make sure you're using the right one. That is the right answer. Loopback plugs is what you would use. 17% of you said a cable tester. But here we have identified an issue with the Ethernet router interface. Cable testers do not test router interfaces. They would test the cable between the routers, but that's not where we think the problem was. We think we've identified an issue with the router interface itself. And the only way to confirm that is by using a loopback plug. A cable tester will not confirm that an interface is bad. Maybe it would help you have more of a calculatus limitatus sort of thing. While I tested the cable using a cable tester, the only thing that's left are the interfaces. Well, that's not quite the direct evidence we were hoping to find. So ideally, we would use a loopback plug. That would be the best way to confirm this particular problem. Confirming the cable is good does not necessarily confirm that the interface is bad. Put it to you that way. We also have an inductive probe and a tone generator. Those are commonly used with each other to be able to identify one end of the cable from the other. We can plug the tone generator on one end of the cable, which might be on the floor of a building, and then go into the wiring closet that is 50 yards away, and there's a bunch of cables coming down from the ceiling. You can use your inductive probe to figure out which one of those bunches of wires is connected to the tone generator on the other side. And then lastly, we have a punch down tool that's commonly used to take wires and punch them down or fasten them into a punch down block, like a 110 block, a 66 block, those types of blocks. Nothing associated with the router interface. In this case, a loopback plug is the answer we were looking for. That's the one you want to choose, and 66% of you got that one absolutely correct. That is the right answer. If you're watching this video for continuing education unit credit, I would love to send you an email that confirms that you were watching this and would give you a 1-hour webinar category CEU. This is valid if you're watching this live. This is also valid if you're watching this on a replay. So it doesn't matter. You can simply follow this process and I will send you an email confirming that you must have seen this particular event. But you have to follow these instructions. You go to the top or the bottom of the Professor Messer website. There is a Contact Us link at the top or the bottom. Click that Contact Us link. It will prompt you for your name, your email address twice. The subject line that I would like you to put in this request is August Core 1. That way I know what this came from. And then in the body of the message, on a line by itself, with no other text around it, not in the middle of a sentence, just the only thing that would be on a line by itself in this particular message are the super secret code words of the month, loopback plug cable tester. It's actually 4 words, I guess. Loopback plug cable tester are the super secret code words of the month. Now, if you didn't catch that, let me give it to you again. Go to the top or the bottom of the Professor Messer website, click the Contact Us link, put in your name, your email address. In the subject line, put August Core 1, and in the body of the message on a line by itself, put the super secret code words of the month, loopback plug cable tester. Almost forgot it. Almost forgot what it was. That would not be good. So those are the 4 words you want to put in there. If you want to put other things down in the message that I would read through, because I do read through all of these, you're more than welcome to add a little note in there. Sometimes your notes are amusing. Sometimes they are encouraging. Sometimes they're motivating. I like everything you put in there. Thank you so much for adding them to the mix. So useful to be able to have that there. So that will earn you, just wait about a week. I will get these out to you. It will earn you that 1 hour of a webinar category CEU. You can use those to renew if you're collecting CEUs. If you're not collecting CEUs, then everything I just said, almost worthless. It doesn't really help you at all. Although if you just like to get an email from me, that's fine too. It's a digitally signed email. So if you're someone who is working on your Security Plus and you're wondering how a digital signature works, this might be a good test for you because you will receive a message from me that I've digitally signed. And then you could try to verify that digital signature with your PGP compatible encryption utility. So all kinds of things you can do with this. Let's do some more questions though. We have time here before we get to the top of the hour. This next question on our list is dealing with DHCP, and it asks, the DHCP process has just completed the request phase. Which of the following would be the next expected step? Would it be, put it in this mix, would it be discover, acknowledge, negotiate, offer, or deny. The DHCP process has just completed the request phase. Which of the following would be the next expected step? Would it be discover, acknowledge, negotiate, offer, or deny? You have some choices there. Now we have to remember the processes. We have to remember what happens with DHCP. Hopefully you remember those and you're able to identify what the next expected step might be. This will be a good one. Let's see how well we remember part of the networking steps, part of the networking section of the Core 1 exam that is in Domain 2 of the Core 1 exam objectives. Let's see how well you know these particular topics that deal with DHCP, whatever that is. Whatever it is we're talking about here. Hopefully you're familiar with this and you can answer. If you don't know, at least take a guess. This is an important consideration for your exam taking, is that you should never leave an answer blank. Always put something in there. Always put a different type of, just a stab. If you don't know, just guess because you have a chance, but never leave it blank. Never, never, never leave that blank. So put that into the mix if you're working through these. If you think you know the answer, please put your answer at the link on the screen. Go to professormesser.com/QA. Please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room. Let's see how we do on this one, or how we did on this one. The question again asks, the DHCP process has just completed the request phase. Which of the following would be the next expected step? Would it be discover, acknowledge, negotiate, offer, or deny? And 71% of you say acknowledge. Again, I want to go that direction. It's pretty strong, but we also had 17% of you that said offer is what you would choose. We have 8% that said negotiate, 2% that say discover, and nobody says deny in the mix. Sadly, not something we can choose. Now, what would the correct answer be? Well, to know this, we would need to know the entire DHCP process. The DHCP process uses a set of acronyms here, things that you need to know, which are DORA, D-O-R-A. DORA is the terms we need to use for this one. The DORA stands for discover. That's when we're looking for a DHCP server. The next on the list is O for offer. We're getting an offer from a DHCP server. Third on the list is the request phase. If you recall, that's the one from our question. So the answer is the one after the request phase. And in this case, that would be the A for acknowledge. That's what we would choose, which confirms that, yep, we're going to take that DHCP address and information that you have given us. That is the thing we have to remember, is DORA. Hopefully, you're already familiar with those terms. Different ways to remember it. You could either remember the quaint city in Central Florida named Mount Dora. Well, there's the City Hall of Mount Dora. Or you can remember back in our days, we have Dora the Explorer. I guess Dora is the network explorer who is discovering, offering, requesting, and acknowledging. And as always, no swiping. So that is the right answer. Acknowledge. 71% of you got that one absolutely correct. That is the right answer. We know that the DORA process would have our discover, our offer. The other part of request was in the question itself, and acknowledge was the fourth phase of this. Well, that means there were a couple here that we did not choose. So you'll notice we didn't even mention negotiate. There's no negotiation that takes place. I guess there sort of is if you receive multiple offers from multiple DHCP servers. I guess internally you could negotiate which one you wanted to respond back with the request, but that's not technically part of the phase to be able to do that. So you've got some choices there to be able to make it happen. And then deny, not part of the phases either, doesn't fit into DORA. The D for DORA is not deny. You don't start your first phase by denying. At least not with DHCP. Maybe with other things, but not with DHCP. In this case, acknowledge, 71% of you got acknowledge absolutely correct. That is what we were looking for. So hopefully give you a little bit of a choice as to what that might be. Now, I know we're at the top of the hour. We're going to squeeze in a couple more questions, though, if that works for you. I think we want to do this one next. This next question on our list asks, a component includes both an M key and a B key. Which of the following would be associated with this design? Would this be related to RAM, CPU cooling, TPM, M.2, video power? We've got a couple options here. A component includes both an M key and a B key. Which of the following would be associated with this design? Is this RAM, CPU cooling, TPM, M.2, video power? If you think you know the answer, go to professormesser.com/QA, lock in your answer. See what you think the answer to this one might be. This is the one I wanted to give you as a gimme. So hopefully this is one you are familiar with if you're working through these. And if you're not familiar with it, you are about to be. So this will be one you can flip a coin. You are a winner either way on this one, because we're going to go through the details just in case it happens to come up in your exam. We'll see how well you do with this. A lot of folks locking in their answer. Where you want to put it is right there in the body of that message. Go to professormesser.com/QA. There's your link. Please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room. We'll have to be sure we know what this one happens to be. And if you don't know, and some people in the chat room going, I don't know, I'm not familiar, take a guess. Take your best guess as to what you think it would be. Lock in what you think your best guess is, which is what you should be doing on the actual exam, is taking your best guess. Never leave an answer blank. Never, never, never leave an answer blank. Let's see how well you did with this one. The question again asks, a component includes both an M key and a B key. Which of the following would be associated with this design? Is this RAM, CPU cooling, TPM, M.2, or video power? How'd you do? Oh, you did very well. 50.45% of you say M.2. 31% of you say TPM. So it's really between those two. And then we have 9% for RAM, 4% for CPU cooling, and 3% for video power. So let's see what the M key and the B key are talking about. What in the world are we referring to? We're referring to this. This is a component, and you'll notice that at the end of the component, there's an M and there's a B. It's like it's in the actual circuit board of this particular unit, and there's a little key next to it, a little opening that's next to it, the M and the B. Well, if you don't recognize that component, it's an M.2 drive. It's an M.2 component. It could be a drive like an SSD. It could be a modem. It could be a Bluetooth adapter. It could be an 802.11 adapter. Got lots of things that are there, but the M.2 interface is not one single interface type. There are different types of M.2, because why would we have just one? We need multiples. Indeed, in some of the components to run into, some of the M.2 components can use either one of those interfaces. This is an example of one that can either slide into a device that has an M slot for your M.2 or a B slot. You've got both of these available, but you have to check the device you're using, and you have to check your motherboard and make sure they are compatible, because you just can't buy M.2 off the shelf and be guaranteed that that's going to be the case. The M key and the B key are absolutely associated with an M.2 component, and 50% of you got that one absolutely right. The TPM, the Trusted Platform Module, very common to have inside of our devices to be able to perform cryptographic functions. It is a critical piece if you want to do things like full disk encryption. But TPM itself is not associated with an M key or a B key. Those are features that are only found with the M.2 device. RAM does not use an M key or a B key. RAM has its own keys that are specific to the RAM type. So if you're putting in DDR4, there's a specific keying system for DDR4. It's a different set of keys for DDR3. It's a different set of keys for DDR2, and so on. And CPU cooling, well, that uses probably fans and heat sinks, doesn't use an M key or a B key. And video power also does not use the M key or B key. It has its own format, usually video power for using power that is used for an additional separate video card. Then you're probably using the PCI Express video power connectors for something like that. In this case, if you see an M key or if you see a B key, you know you're talking about an M.2 device. That is the one we would be choosing in that particular example. Well, I know we're at the top of the hour. We're actually past the top of the hour, but I have another question for you. We'll do one more that is on this list. This next question, though, does not come from the predefined list that I created just for this week. I wanted to give you a question that is from a book that I wrote called the 220-1101 Core 1 A+ Practice Exams book. I wrote this book because, here's an example. Here's the book. It's a big book. A lot of questions in here. 389 pages. There are 3 full practice exams in this book. All 3 of these practice exams, in each of these practice exams includes 85 multiple choice-based questions and 5 performance-based questions. You have detailed information that is included in every answer. And the reason I wrote this book is because the questions I was finding on the internet and even from other paid sources, not that great. Was not impressed. So I thought, if these questions coming from what should be a good source are not that great, they aren't accurate, they're out of scope, they don't ask me a question with the same tone or style as the actual exam, well, I think there needs to be a set of questions that does. A set of questions that do keep to the exam objectives. They stay very tight to the exam objectives. They are in scope with the exam. They are accurate. And lastly, they are written to have the same feel, style, and tone as an actual exam questions, but they are all original questions that I have personally written. So let's go through a question from the practice exams just to give you a feel for this, what this would be like. This is on practice exams. What page am I on? On page 14 of the practice exams book, question A38. It asks, a user's smartphone shows a black screen and does not respond to any screen taps or button presses. A check of the SIM card shows a red label, but no physical damage. Which of the following is the most likely reason for these issues? Is this overheating, digitizer failure, liquid damage, or invalid SIM card? Got some choices. Now, this is not one, of course, we do not want to answer in the chat room, but in your mind, just pick what you think the answer is. Now, this is a PDF, so you can annotate this. If you're looking at it and you're thinking, there's information in here that I want to highlight or I'd like to change. If you're doing this on a tablet, you can use your stylus to write on it. There's nothing restricting you from doing that. If you think you know answers, you can choose the answer that you think it is. You've got a complete editing capabilities to go in and modify or write on this PDF document, if you will. So annotation is absolutely enabled for something like this. The answer to this question, if you just want to know if it's A, B, C, or D, you can click quick answer. It's on page 31. We're, of course, on page 14. So you can scroll to page 31. Or even worse, if you want to see detailed answer, and who doesn't, it's on page 73. Well, instead of scrolling through this PDF, I put links right in the PDF. And if you click the details, it takes you to page 73. That's what it should be. The question is there on page 73. See, there's page 72 up there. We're on page 73. And it tells you the answer is C, liquid damage. And it explains, like every good Q&A guide should, it gives you an explanation as to why that is the right answer, which is great. I think it's fantastic. The problem, though, when I take these exams, I always get the question wrong. And I think a lot of the Q&A that you find is missing an opportunity to help you understand why the wrong answer is wrong so that you then understand why the right answer is right. So in my practice exams book, every incorrect answer is documented. You can go into the incorrect answers. If you chose overheating, this is why it's not overheating. If you chose digitizer failure, this is why it's not digitizer failure. If you chose invalid SIM card, this is why that would not be the right answer in this case. So there's a bit of a feedback loop in this, and all of the topics and questions and answers that are in this book all correlate back to a set of exam objectives from the official set from CompTIA, so you know that everything you're reading is in scope. In fact, I'll tell you, if you get a question right, go ahead and read through the wrong answers as well, because the wrong answers are the topics that might show up on your actual exam. So you've really, with every question, you're getting at least 4 different topics to learn from. Pretty good to have that there. And if you read the question and you just have no idea what this question's talking about, at the bottom of every detailed answer is a link to the video that was used to create this question. So it has all of the topics, all of the nomenclature, all of the glossary type items, all of the acronyms, and can help you understand where this question was really coming from. What does this question mean? How should I be answering the question? It is in this book that you can, or this video, and you can either use the QR code if you're in the PDF version. You can also use the link. So you can just click the link that's here. It's a hot link that will take you right to the page for troubleshooting mobile devices. You can watch the video and then come back to your PDF. Once you're done here, of course, every PDF reader should have a back button, and this one does as well. You click the back button, click, and we're back to where we started, and we can go to the next question that's in our list. This is my practice exams book. It's available on my website. You can also get this in conjunction with my practice exams, and there's a little bit of a discount when you get both of them together. It's a practice exams course notes combo. You can see that also is available in my success bundles. Find out more. Go to my website, professormesser.com/core1pe. Well, as you can tell, we went through a lot of topics today, but all of these topics are free for you to download and sift through. They are in the official CompTIA exam objectives, and you should absolutely get your hands on these. The objectives themselves are free to download from the CompTIA website, and they list everything you need to know to pass this exam. The entire set of bullets is here. Everything that is listed could possibly appear on your exam, and CompTIA stays very, very close to this list. So this is a fantastic checklist before you walk into the exam to make your own determinations on whether you really are prepared to take this exam or not. You can download it directly from the CompTIA website. Either follow the link on our site at professormesser.com/objectives, or you can go to your favorite search engine and type in CompTIA exam objectives. We'll take you right to the page, and you can download those objectives and have the latest version available. We do one of these study groups for A+ every month. We do an A+ Core 1 and an A+ Core 2. Our Core 2 study group is next week. Come on back on August the 8th, and we'll do a Core 2 study group. I don't know if it'll be good or not. I've not even written the questions yet. That's how fresh it will be when it finally gets to you on August the 8th. We also have a Core 1 and Core 2 study groups that are currently scheduled for September the 10th and September the 12th. Come on back in September. And if you're watching this video and it's after September, you don't know when the next one is going to be, you can always check the calendar. Go to professormesser.com/calendar. You know exactly when the next live event is going to be. I always update that immediately if any of these dates change, and sometimes they do. So please always check in so that you know exactly when the next live event is going to be. Also update the calendar. There's an events channel in our Discord. So if you're part of our Discord already, you'll notice there's an events channel. I also update all of the dates in there as well, although I've not put the September dates in there yet. I need to do that so that you know it's there. The calendar does have all of the September dates in there. Well, the part where I ask you questions is over, but we're not done yet. I have plenty of things that we can go through because you can ask me questions in the after show. Simply follow the same link we've been doing the whole time, professormesser.com/QA, and at the top of the page is a set of tabs. You can tab over and submit a question at any time for the after show. We're going to be taking those questions in just about a minute or two. Don't forget about our discounted vouchers. If you happen to live in the U.S., Canada, or U.S. territories, they are available for you at professormesser.com/vouchers. We also have course notes, practice exams, and so much more on our website. Visit professormesser.com. All of these can be accessed from the main menus. And of course, I'll be over on the Discord when we're done on the after show. We've got our Twitter. If you like this video, we would love it if you would give it a thumbs up. That way we know we're doing the right thing. And if you really want to make our day, head on over to professormesser.com/YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is a great place to go to learn information, hopefully can give you more things to think about as you're studying for your A+ exam. We have a lot more to talk about. I want to take your questions and so much more in the after show. Stick around. We will start the after show in just a few seconds. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time on the A+ Study Group. Okay. Let's take a sip. Oh, that's so much better. Let's bring up me. Hi, everybody. Now we've got me way too big, but this is what you get for the after show. Let's now focus on questions that you might have for me. That's what we do in the after show is I take your questions. We've already been talking a little bit about things that you can submit. And indeed, you can continue to submit those questions. If I bring up the right graphic, you can do it right here because those questions are available in the second hour of the study group. Simply visit the link on your screen, go to professormesser.com/QA, and you can submit your question in those tabs at the top of the screen. I will be moderating these behind the scenes. Your question's just not going to appear automatically on here. I have to go through the list. You've already been putting some in as we went, so hopefully we can kind of jump in and go through the mix of these and to have all of them there. So I also certainly need to kind of focus on some of the questions that were asked earlier. Now I have to think back and think, what was the question I saw in the chat that talked about something that I wanted to answer? And of course, I don't see it in the list of things that are here. So we will eventually find our way into all of the things that are in that list. And we'll certainly kind of focus on that and break down all of this. Let's start with a question that talks about renewing a certification. This is from Roland, who asks, "Good morning, Professor and everyone. I'm currently trying to obtain my continuing education credits and have participated in your live stream events. As you mentioned last week, there's a limit to how many CE credits one can obtain through this method. And this week I have reached my limit of 4 continuing education hours through a live webinar. I've consulted the CompTIA website on a listing of other means to CEUs, but I'm a bit confused on how to proceed. Is there a listing you would recommend, or you could share any thoughts, any advice, etc., etc., etc.? Well, one of the things that I have kind of prepared for questions like this is that there are different ways to renew your certification. We've been talking so far about continuing education units because you can collect hours of your time, put them into a form that you can submit to CompTIA. And for your A+, when you accumulate a certain number of hours, it will renew your certification. That is kind of the longer process you would take to be able to renew. There's also other ways to renew, other methods to renew that CompTIA can offer. For example, you could take a higher level CompTIA exam, and if you pass it, it renews all your lower level certifications. So if you have taken the A+ and you decide, I'm going to go take the Network Plus, and you take and pass the Network Plus, your renewal for your A+ is now moved up 3 years from the date you passed your Network Plus. So you effectively are renewing. You could wait 3 years, take your Network Plus exam before your A+ expires, and when you pass it, you've now renewed your A+ as well for another 3 years. Just kind of nice to have that there. There are other ways to renew using third-party certification exams. There's other ways to renew. In fact, a lot of people take their Cert Master CE is another way to renew. If you're confused about the different options for renewal on the CompTIA website, I did a video. It's in the YouTube video description of this video, and it's called How to Renew Your A+, Network Plus, or Security Plus certification in just a few hours. And it will absolutely give you advantages and disadvantages of each one of those, so you can decide which one makes the most sense for you. Now, if you are someone who is using CEUs, you've just decided, I'm going to do it the CEU way, there is a list out on the CompTIA website under continuing education, which is right there at the top. There is a list that takes you through, why do I need to renew? Learn about the renewal process. Choose your renewal path. Submit your CEUs and renew. Let's choose our renewal path where we're going to renew with multiple activities, where we earn CEUs. And if you do that, we're going to learn more. It goes through the list of all of the things you can do. You can get CompTIA certifications. You can get non-CompTIA certifications, training in higher education, IT industry participation, publishing, and other things. And if you click on any of these, it will tell you the things that you could do. You could teach a class. You could create instructional materials. You could participate as a subject matter expert in a CompTIA exam development workshop. And it explains how you can use those to apply towards earning CEUs for that. So you can step through each of these categories, and it will tell you how many CEUs you can get for that. For example, like work experience. Do work experience, and you can see work experience can get you 9 CEUs towards your A+, because you need 20 to pass your A+. You get 9 of them through work experience. So you do have options to be able to use this. You have different ideas and different things you can choose from. There's a big list. You kind of have to click through it on the CompTIA website. It's not incredibly obvious which ones you would choose there, but there are options there and things you can select from. There's no best way to do this. It's whatever way makes sense for you. It also depends on how much time you have. If you have 3 years before your certification expires, that's plenty of time to start compiling CEUs. But some people have come into our Discord and said, my certification expires tomorrow. What can I do to renew it? Well, collecting CEUs is probably not going to be the right way for you if you've not been collecting anything or doing any of these types of industry events or things that apply towards the CEUs. That's not going to work very well. And so one of the things we recommend in those scenarios is you should go take CertMaster CE, which costs a little bit more than submitting CEUs, but not much more, and you can do it in less than a day. And the last time this happened, somebody stopped in. We said, go get your CertMaster CE. They bought it. They sat down with it. They went through it in a number of hours. They submitted it. They were renewed. So they checked in the morning, and then they checked in the evening and said, I just submitted my CertMaster CE. I am renewed for 3 years. They were able to do that in a day, in less than a day. And that's a great way to renew. If you're short of time, but you still want to keep that certification, CertMaster CE might be a good way to go. But there's lots of ways. Have a look at the video. It'll show you the best way might fit for you. Other questions. Let's keep going through your list of questions that you have here. So there was a question actually in the chat room I want to address because it was about my practice exams book. What? You want to see it again? Well, sure. There it is. My practice exams book. I spent a lot of time writing these questions. All of these questions in the book. So a lot of people wonder about the questions. I write every question in here from scratch. This is not an AI book. This is not something that I contract out to a third party that barely understands context and language. This is something that is incredibly important to me, that you get the highest quality study materials possible. And that is because you really need something that's going to prepare you, not just prepare you from a content perspective, but I wanted a set of questions that would prepare you from a taking the exam perspective. I wanted questions that were very similar in tone, in style, in cadence, so that when you sit down for the exam, you are reading questions that have been specially crafted to have a similar feel to them. You're not going to be thrown because the exam is asking you questions in a way you weren't expecting. They are all here. Along those same lines, the questions that you see in my book are not going to show up on your exam. That would be what we call in the industry cheating. No, you're not going to see that. These are not actual exam questions. Not going to do that. There's something we use in our particular company called ethics. And we are not going to provide you with actual exam questions. Even better, I wrote all of these questions. So I know they're not going to appear on your exam because I wrote them. They are all original questions. And they're not taken from third parties. They're not gathered from other sources. They're not something that some machine wrote for you. These are well-crafted, well thought out, a lot of time went into this book. And I think it makes a difference, not just for your studies. I'd like to think it makes a difference when you walk into the exam room. I know that it does. So that's the reason we spend so much time on it. That's the way we do it, so that you know that you're getting something that will really help you when you walk into the exam room. Unfortunately, not all practice questions you run into have that level of attention to them. Hopefully, now that there's something like this on the market, maybe other people will step it up a little bit and give you some better ones that can help along those lines. But I wanted to address that. That was a question that came through earlier. Thank you for allowing me to vent on that one just a little bit, because it's an important part of what we do is to provide you with these quality training materials. We think it's incredibly important. Other questions. Let's see if this is a pretty good one. I see this all the time. This is from Pastor Ed, who asks, if I don't have any knowledge on the A+, should I watch all the videos first and then join the live streams, or are these groups for newbies as well? Well, I think it will work either way. Certainly the after show works either way. You don't have to have any particular knowledge to come in and hear me talk about some of these topics. I think it might help you in the first hour if you did have some knowledge of these topics. Although one of the things you've probably seen already, Pastor Ed, is that we went through an explanation of every question, and we went through an explanation of every answer, whether the answer was right or whether the answer was wrong. So if you didn't watch the video, I think the plan was that you would be able to gather some details from the explanation of the answer, and that might help you. Even if you didn't understand the question and you didn't understand the answers, maybe by the time we went through the explanation, it was a little bit more familiar. But I think for most of us, I would recommend concentrating on going through the course first, then cycling over to the live streams, because I think you do better on the answers, or at least maybe a better test for yourself if you've already gone through the videos. And I think that might give you a better barometer on how you're doing with your training, because if you have gone through the course and then you sit through a live stream and you think, yep, I know it. Yep, got it. Yep, I knew that one. Then you've done the right thing. But if you've gone through the course and you're going through the live stream and thinking, I don't know what that term is. I've never heard of that. I'm not sure what that is. That can also give you good feedback on maybe I should go back and study some of those topics a little better. So I think in both of those cases, I think going through the course the first time would probably be your better learning opportunity than going into one of these live streams cold. I just think that's probably the best way to go. Let's get some more questions from you. Other things that you have, other questions you have posed, other topics in this list. We talked about this. This is a question that we sort of talked about, but not really the best way. This is from Anonymous, who says, my A+ cert will expire next December. What is the cheapest way to renew it? I like this question. This person, Anonymous, thinks like I think. Yeah, great. We've got all these options for renewing. We could take CertMaster CE. We could collect CEUs. We could take a third-party exam. We could take a CompTIA exam. No. Which one is cheapest? Thank you. Finally asking the hard questions. Cheapest would be, the answer to this one actually is it depends. So here is the ultimate cheapest part of renewing. There's two ways to approach this. One would be you need to renew your certification and you want to get a new certification. You're working towards a different cert right now. That's one scenario. Or you need to renew your certification and you're not working toward a different cert right now. Because both of those have a different option, a different answer for what is cheapest. Here's what I mean. So let's say that you have earned your A+ and you've already set as a goal that by the end of this year, you want to be Network Plus certified. And you're already working on it, and you're already going through your NTN 008, and you're studying your NTN 008 Network Plus. You're on track to pass this exam in October. You're going down the road of earning your Network Plus. Well, you're going to be taking this Network Plus exam. Of course, you have to pay for the Network Plus exam to be able to take it. But if you pass your Network Plus exam, it renews your A+ for free. Technically not for free because you did have to pay for the Network Plus exam, but you were taking the Network Plus exam anyway. So let's just say for no additional fees, you have now renewed your A+. That one was free if you were in the position of taking that higher level certification. So that's one great way to approach this. But as I mentioned, what if you're not taking a higher level cert? What if you're not taking a third-party certification? You have no plans to get a certification before the expiration of your A+ exam, then cheapest would have a different approach. And in that particular case, the least expensive renewal option is going to be to collect CEUs. How inexpensive is it? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's go back to the CompTIA website and have a look at continuing education, because in here, they talk about continuing education fees. It's in the pull-down menu under continuing education fees. And let's look at the fees. So if you are collecting CEUs, that's what these numbers are for, there is an annual fee you must pay to collect those CEUs. So over a 3-year renewal period, this is what you have to pay. You have to pay this 3 times, or what most people do is just pay it all at once on year 3. If it's the A+, the A+ CE, which is the current version of the A+ since 2011, is the CE version, the continuing education version. Annually, you have to pay $25 to be allowed to submit CEUs. Put it that way, which means over a 3-year renewal period, to collect CEUs, it's $75. Not bad. $75. That's what you pay. You collect CEUs. That is the least expensive way to renew your certification if you're not taking a higher level exam or third-party exam. I mentioned earlier, there's another thing you could do. Take the CertMaster CE to be able to do this. There are this single activity CertMaster CE that you could choose. There it is, CompTIA CertMaster CE. Well, how much does that cost? Well, for the A+, CertMaster CE is one that costs $133. So it is more expensive than the $75 of collecting CEUs, which was your question. That's the cheapest. However, the difference between $75 and $133 is not huge. It's still more expensive, obviously, but the CertMaster CE is probably your better choice if you've waited until the last minute. So if you wait till the last minute, it's going to cost you a little bit more to buy that one because it's $133. Unless you've somehow collected CEUs, you can put them together in a day, you can pay your $75 and submit them. If you can't do that, CertMaster CE. So it's sort of a 2-tier scenario. You can either pay your $75 for CEUs. That's the least expensive. CertMaster probably most expensive at $133, and higher, more expensive, probably much more expensive, would be to pay for an additional certification exam. That would certainly be more expensive. But those are the dollar figures. For those of you keeping track of how much money it is, that's how you figure out what you can choose. If you're like me and you want the cheapest possible route, you're going to squeeze every penny out of that investment, that's what you would choose. Other questions. Let's keep going through. Along those same lines, we're going to follow up question from Nick. Nick says, all right, do you think it's worth it to renew the A+? And I'm going to stop there because Nick's question actually says, do you think it's worth it to renew the A+ after it expires or focus more on other certs? Well, taking your question at face value, it's a pretty easy question because if your A+ expires, if you have passed your A+ exam, you've taken both tests, you've passed both tests, 3 years after that last exam, you have not renewed your certification expires. It ceases to be. It is no longer a certification. It is the dead parrot of certifications. So at that point, you can't renew it. Anytime in that 3-year period, you can renew, you can renew, you can renew, you can renew, you can renew. After 3 years and a day, you can't renew anymore. It's dead. It's gone. Forget it. The only way to get that certification back is to take both exams again. A lot of people don't realize that. They think, oh, I'll just wait until it expires and then I'll renew it next year. Nope. No, you won't. You will take both exams again. And you'll have to do the funny walk and the whole thing just to renew your certification. So I changed up your question a little bit, Nick, and said, do you think it's worth it to renew the A+? Yes, using one of those methods we already talked about, but do it before it expires. That's the difference. And if we take it and modify the question, is it worth to renew the A+ before it expires or focus more on other certs, which is really the question that Nick was asking? Well, that's a good question, because now it depends on what you're doing with this A+ cert. Is this A+ cert something that you think you would be able to use in your career going forward? If so, it might be worthwhile to renew the cert. However, if you've been working the last 3 years and you've very quickly moved up in the ranks and you're now no longer working on the help desk, you're no longer working as desktop support, you're now on the network support team, maybe the network support team and the jobs you get after that point as a network administrator don't have a huge emphasis in A+, it might be justified to allow the A+ to expire. You may not necessarily need to renew that A+. Now, some of us like renewing our certifications because we work so hard to get them to begin with that we cannot bear to allow the certification to expire. You just can't do it. And in fact, what it really should be, and I think this is what happened with me, maybe this happens with other people as well. If you get to a point where you've forgotten that you even had the cert, that's probably a good time to let it expire. I think that's, during your normal job, you're thinking nobody's ever brought up the A+ in the last 3 years. Okay, well, maybe it's time to let it go. That's a reasonable play on that one, I think. So I think that's what I would recommend too, is you just go through and think about, can I use this? Have I been thinking about this cert? And psychologically, am I prepared to let all that work go out the window? That's the thing we need to remember. So that's the difference in here. So absolutely, that's my answer, is that it depends. It's your question to answer. It's very unique to your particular situation. Measure all those things up. Maybe CertMaster CE is a relatively inexpensive investment. You can renew in a day. Renew it, good for another 3 years. You don't even have to think about it anymore. So another thing to go through. One of the things I mentioned in our study group, sometime in that first hour of the study group, I gave you instructions on how you could renew or how you can earn a CEU that you can apply towards your renewal. The CEU that I send you, this email that I send you, I mentioned is digitally signed. And JM asks, hey, you sent us a certificate in an ASC file for attending a 220-1102 A+ study group in July of 2024. I have been facing difficulties in accessing that file. And I would imagine you have, because it is not a file that is directly associated with any particular known application. .asc in this particular case means it is an ASCII file, it means it's a text file, in other words. But it is a digital signature. In fact, while you're doing that, on my screen, I'm going to pop up an example of an email that I sent so that you can see what that digital signature looks like. I want to be sure I'm not showing anybody's stuff here. We need to see if I can find one really quick. Oh yeah, I got one right here. So I'm going to pull this file down. So what you will get in this, I want to see if I can get a screen grab of this, and then I will maybe bring it up so that you could see what this is about. And give you a feel for this. I don't want to give too much away, and I don't want to show people's information. So I apologize that I'm being a little bit crafty with what I have here. But I want to open up. Is this just a screenshot? Yeah, it is. So this will allow me to kind of edit out screenshot that's on my screen. Beautiful. Get rid of this name. One moment. Get rid of the names on the screen. Okay. Yeah, that's good. All right. So when you get an email from me on the CEUs, you get an email that looks like this. There we go. Here's the email. It says, thanks for watching my live event and confirming your participation with the correct keyword. Your certification for CompTIA webinar category CEU is below. The actual certification is this part that says, this certifies that this person has attended the following live event. Here's the provider, the web event, the candidate name, which I X'd out, and then the number of hours, in this case, 1 hour. This certificate, which is this email, these letters you see on the screen, is the certification that you are here. This certificate is validated through the use of keywords provided during the web event. Yes, it was. This certification has been digitally signed by James Messer, Messer Studios LLC, and there's the key fingerprint in case you want to go to a key server and you look for my key based on my email address of james@professormesser.com. It will show you a key fingerprint on that key server, and that key fingerprint should match the key fingerprint that I have here. That way you know you have the right key. Now, the question was that there's an attachment. In fact, it tells you right here, down here at the bottom. You can barely see it because I've got it hidden there. There's an attachment on here, and it is that ASC file that was mentioned earlier. Well, I downloaded the ASC file so I could show it to you. Let me bring that up. Can I just click? Is it a text file? Can I just click it? Will it figure it out? Oh, no, I did it. I did some bad things there. I did not mean to do that. Okay. Yes, it was. The signature, one moment, please. Let's open this. Oh, with the wrong thing. And when you're live, it's so much more difficult to do things because you're doing 12 things at once and you're worried about the time and you're worried about things happening. So here we go. Here is the signature file that is attached, that .asc file. If you were to take the .asc file, take it and put it on your computer and change the extension to .txt or simply open the .asc file in a text editor, you will get something like this. And it will see, it even has the words in it, begin PGP signature. PGP is the pretty good privacy. If you have a different program that's PGP compatible, for example, a popular version of a PGP compatible program would be GPG, which stands for GNU Privacy Guard. I know, we do these things. This is the digital signature for the email. All this funny looking letters that are here and characters. What in the world? Well, it's not supposed to be readable. It is an ASCII file. You can see the text, but it's not words. It's not anything you can recognize. That's because it's a digital signature. And at the end of the signature, it has this footer at the bottom, end PGP signature. So you know where the signature begins, you know where the signature ends. Now, you as an individual are not going to run into this particular signature. In fact, you'll probably never see the signature. It's just not going to be there. But you won't load that up. You won't look at it. It doesn't help you to look at it anyway. But if you're using PGP, GPG, or a PGP or GPG compatible plugin in your mail system, Gmail has one of these. I've used other mail systems that have plugins in it that will collect keys and check this. It will validate the digital signature on the attachment, and it will tell you if anything has been changed with that email. It will also confirm that it really came from me and not from someone else. If it does not validate, then something changed with that message. Sometimes email providers will stick an advertisement in the middle of the mail you get, and that will certainly change the signature because that has been modified and you need to know about it. So that's what that weird extension is that's in there. And you're wondering, what in the world is going on with that? What is this extension? I can't read it. If I do read it, it looks like nonsense. It's a signature. It's a digital signature, and you can validate it using a compatible program. And that's your lab for today. You now need to go out, download GPG, use a GPG or PGP compatible plugin in your mail, install My Key, which is available on all of the public key servers. You will easily find it. And see if you can validate the email. That's your Security Plus lab of the day. You don't need it for A+. You don't need to understand that for A+. You don't need to understand that for Network Plus, but it's something that can really help you for Security Plus. So absolutely, you should do that. Let's keep going through the list. You have such good questions in here this month, by the way. Other questions that you have. Oh, this is an interesting question to nobody but Nate. And we're going to, maybe other people might be interested. How many IT certifications do you have? Well, Nate, this is a good question. I think in my career, we counted it up one time and it was like 18 certs, something like that, 18 or 19. I think it was almost 20. There were almost 20 certifications that I had accumulated through the years. Some of those certifications were expired by now. Other certifications, they kind of naturally expire, if you will. For example, I have Microsoft MCSE certification from many years ago. And the exams you had to take to earn the MCSE, which is the Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer, the exams you had to take for that were on operating systems that we effectively no longer use. And indeed, the MCSE certification has sort of been phased out by Microsoft in many ways. But the cert is still valid. It doesn't expire. So I still have it. I still earn it. It's still part of my things that I could put on my, after my name, little initials that I put after my name. So that is an example of one. Another example are things like the CNX certifications, Certified Network Expert. This was a series of certifications that focused on Ethernet, ATM, which was a networking topology, FIDI, not him, different. It's different. Cabling, network cabling. And there was another one in there too. Oh, token ring was another. Remember token ring? I am certified on token ring. So that helps me a lot today. But overall, probably about 20 certifications, just under 20 certifications. I want to say it was 18 because there was Microsoft certifications. I think I took when I worked for McAfee, which at the time was Network Associates. I think I took like 7 or 8 of our not internal, but company certs. So I had all of these Network Associates certifications on firewalls, intrusion prevention, antivirus, enterprise AV, all of the sniffer certifications. Those were all certs that I had because I worked there. And then when I worked at Palo Alto Networks as a systems engineer, I had the Palo Alto Network certifications. At the time, there were 2 of those. So you kind of accumulate these through the years. And it's not about the total number of certs that you have, but I will tell you that even though I took that Microsoft certification and earned my MCSE by taking Windows NT 4.0 exams. Can I tell you how long ago that was? But my point to that was that in the world of IT, you're never going to touch an NT 4.0 machine. There's no more left. You're not going to run into one unless you're building one from scratch just for nostalgic purposes. But one of the things, and I think this is an important thing to remember as we sit here today and learn A+ and Network Plus and Security Plus, the things you learn today are going to be topics that you will continue to learn from and use the rest of your career. So when I got my MCSE, I learned all about this thing called Active Directory. I learned about the Active Directory tree. I learned about the different backup and restore to Active Directory, how I could create different trusts between different Active Directory configurations. There were all these AD configs and AD processes you had to know to get Microsoft certified. This is practically the same information we're using today on the most modern of Microsoft systems. So learning Active Directory back in the day when dinosaurs ruled the earth is still valuable to me today, even though I don't have the latest and greatest Microsoft certifications to pull from. So sometimes it's nice to say, yeah, I had a lot of certs, But the reality is, and the part that will help you personally, is that the things you are learning today on your A+, your Network Plus, your Security Plus, or whatever certification you're taking right now are topics and are important technical skills that you will continue to use the rest of your career. So, and it's nice to look back over that time frame, over the 20 or 30 years when I started to get those. It's nice to look back and go, yeah, we did that, sir. That was a lot. And I accumulated a lot through the years just because that's what you do in this industry. But what you learn is ultimately so much more important than the number of certs you had. So it's an interesting talking point. I like that we can talk about it and discuss. There were a lot of certs and this was what it was like, and that's great. But just keep in mind what you're doing today will make a difference for you the rest of your career. You're making quite an investment into yourself right now. And I know it doesn't seem that way. It's a lot of memorization and you've got to step through the process and it's stressful and you got to go take the exam. There's a lot of things in the now that kind of take us away from that overarching reasoning behind this. But just keep in mind that what you're doing now is good and it's going to help you and it will be valuable to you for many, 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 many years into the future. So just to give you the little motivation, that's my motivational speech for you today, is there's a justification behind this. There's a reasoning behind what you are doing. And it literally, as I explain it to you, can give you that example and many, many more of how this has always helped me through my career. Doing these certs is, there's a reason we do it. There's a means to the end. And the current means is, can I get a job or can I get a better job? But ultimately we kind of forget, oh, it actually taught us something. So that's the part we kind of forget, that, oh, I'm smarter because I took this cert. I'm better. We kind of skip past that point. We use it as a collection. How many you got? I got 5. Oh, I got 6. I got 4. You know, that's great. And I think you should collect them and you should be continuing to better yourself. But ultimately there's a bigger reason that we're doing these certs. So absolutely something to think about. Other questions. How are we on time? We're great on time. Other questions. Let's go. This is a good one. So it's a frequently asked question, but worth commenting on, from Jordan, who asks, have you thought about teaching other certifications like CCNA? Well, yeah, I probably have thought about all of them to some degree. It's one of those things you always think about, you know, in the day-to-day. I'm sitting down right now. We're producing a new video course. If I'm not producing a new video course, I'm writing a new video course. I'm writing a new set of practice exams. I'm writing a new set of course notes. There's always some type of content creation going on. I'm constantly writing. The weekly pop quiz questions. There's other things happening behind the scenes with other projects you haven't even seen yet. There's always something that's being worked on. And we often get into the day-to-day of that, of sitting down, processing people's vouchers, answering questions in my customer service, answering the tickets you leave in your member account, responding to emails that you send me, then start writing some of the content I need for the next video series. I put on a different shirt, we shoot some videos, and you're sort of in that daily task mode. But there are times when at the end of the day or on the weekend, we sit back and say, what are we doing next? Big picture wise, over the next 12 months, what do we want to do? And we make a plan. We have a list. And very often that list includes, let's do another course. And for those of you that have followed us through the years, we've had Microsoft courses, we've had Cisco courses, we've had other courses that we've offered. And right now, currently on the website, we have primarily A+, Network Plus, Security Plus. That's what we're focusing on today. But in the future, yeah, we could have other courses. And Cisco's course is right in my wheelhouse. I am a former network administrator, systems engineer. I have planned and designed large scale security implementations in some of the biggest companies in the world. I have scopes and ideas about what people need, what is important to know, what is not important to know, and at least what I hope would be knowledge enough of the industry that I could understand which one of these courses may have more value than another. Because that's sort of the point of going through that whole process of my career and working in the trenches and in the field and doing the job, that now I can apply some of that towards how can you do the same thing? Well, here's some courses that can help you. And certainly CCNA would be a fun one to do because routing, switching, the whole networking side of things, solid. I'm there. I am a protocol reading, network administrating, system engineering kind of designer of networks. And I've seen some of the biggest networks in the world, and I have designed and implemented security solutions to go into those monster-sized networks. So why not bring some of that to you? Why not bring some of that experience and put it into your lap and say, here's things that are going to help you design those big networks of tomorrow. That would be fun. That would be great. But currently we have A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus. So what will the next course be? I don't know. And as I often say, it tends to change every day. One day I wake up and go, let's do a Cisco course. That'll be the next one on the list. And the next day I wake up and go, cloud course is going to be great. Let's do a cloud course. And then the next day I wake up and think, Linux is really where we need to go. So it changes depending on the weather, I guess. I'm not sure exactly what drives that. I am sort of sure exactly what drives my reasoning behind that. We do have a formula that we like to use, but some of it is a bit nebulous. Some of it is your gut. Some of it is based on what's happening in the industry, and things in the industry do change over time. So I don't have a good answer for you as to what that will be or even when it will be. All I can tell you is that we're always looking to add, improve, or create based on the things that you need. So we'll figure it out. Eventually, you will either see or not see the course, and it only exists, or at least it doesn't exist until it does. Until I finally sit down and start working on it. See, the chat room's perfect. They're like, Python course. Yeah, Python course. Let's do a Python course. Let's do a DevOps course. You can see where this is going. So Python's where we should go. Why didn't I think of that? Tomorrow it will be Red Hat's where we should go. So you get the idea. It's just me kind of bouncing around ideas and feeling them out. And I'm not committing to anything. We might or might not have another course. I don't know. We'll have to see where this goes. We're definitely not doing a programming course. We're definitely not doing a C# course. We're not doing a C++ course. We are not doing how to build your iOS app course. Nope. It would be what we should do. It'll be more. You ever see those video series of someone who is in the kitchen and they're cooking things? It's a video course on, the drunk cook or the cook who can't shoot straight. And it's just an awful mess. Like they can't do anything right. It never works. That would be me teaching a programming course. It'd be the worst programming, drunk C++. That's what you would get. It would be awful. It would be horrible. First, I'm a bad programmer to start with. Now put it in a course. We'll document how bad I am. Nobody will watch that. Nobody should watch that. It's like a train wreck. You got to watch it, but nobody should watch that. And there's probably better things I could be doing with my time anyway. Let's stick to what I know and know really, really, really well and can bring context to, rather than things I don't know. So I know my limitations. The programming side is definitely one of those. We're going to put the programmers over there. You could spend an entire career learning that piece. And I don't have time for that one. So for sure, sitting through those. Other questions? Other things. Let's go through the list. Let's go see what you have. There's a lot that you are submitting. Thank you. Speaking of programming, nope, we're not going to go down that road either. Some folks have submitted some programming questions. I think I've already very well established that I am not a person you should be taking programming recommendations from. For those of you not familiar with kind of where we sit in that world of things, because if you talk to my parents, they think all programming is coding and that's all computer stuff is coding. You're a coder, right? Do you code? That's what I hear everybody's doing. They're just a coder. No, that's not how it works. I tend to put the industry in two sort of slightly overlapping Venn diagrams. The world of computing, There is the computer science side, which would be the programmers. It's people who are writing applications. They are building web-based apps. They are writing mobile apps for their iOS. They're writing Android apps. They are people designing from the beginning to the end an application that is going to run on one of those platforms. Those are programmers. We're going to put those into the world of programming. We're going to call the creation of an application programming. Now there's a different side of computing that are people that support the systems running Windows, Linux, Mac OS. They are protecting the data. They're connecting the networks together. They're making sure that we can use the network securely. They are connecting all of our sites over wide area connections. They are connecting and sending data up to satellites and back. We are keeping the data center running and cooled and backed up. That side of computing is information technology. At least the terminology I'm going to use, that's IT. IT does not do programming. Programming does not do IT. As badly as companies would like to squeeze those things together, they are not to be squeezed together because both of those in and of themselves is too big. You will never learn everything you need to learn to cover every topic in IT, just as you as a programmer could never possibly learn everything you need to know to understand every aspect of every programming language. Just can't be done. So you're certainly not going to merge those two things together. They stay apart. There's a little overlap right in the middle. It's like a sliver of the Venn diagram where those two kind of connect to each other. And if you wanted to be pedantic, you could say that no, Python scripting and PowerShell scripting and shell scripting, that is absolutely programming. Well, I guess technically speaking, yes. But as I am defining it here, programming is writing an application using Python, using PowerShell, writing your own batch files. That is scripting. That is automation. And I would not put that into the same category as a programmer because it's not. It's not even close. Not even remotely close to programming. So it's not like building your own app. Scripting is very, very different. It is its own set of skills. It is a set of valuable skills. Scripting is valuable. If you are not familiar with PowerShell and you are not familiar with Python, you should become familiar with one or both of those. That is a very powerful set of skills that you can not only put on a resume, which I think a lot of us are here to talk about resumes and getting that job, but again, those are skills that you will be able to use throughout your career. You will be able to do things in a matter of minutes that take other people hours. That makes you valuable. That gives you a job and perhaps even gives you more money for a job. So I think that when you talk about that, what about how does this affect programming, and what about the world of application development, and what about AI and as it applies to application development? I got nothing for you. I'm not in the world of programming, nor am I interested in being in programming, nor do you want me there. So it's a good question. It just needs to be posed to somebody who's more knowledgeable in that world than I happen to be. I can stick to this side, and I like this side, and I'm very knowledgeable in the topics we cover on the IT side. Don't put me in front of a programming thing and try to make me do stuff, because that's eyes just gloss over and there's like a little bit of drool coming out. And you don't want that. It just all degenerates at that point. Let's stick to networking. Let's stick to security. Let's stick to hardware. Let's stick to software, and I'm good. We'll stick to those. We know where our lane is here, and we're going to stick in that lane for sure. Other questions? Let's keep going. I know we're at the top of the hour. We'll get a couple more in because I'm still talking. Along those same lines, Anonymous asks, hey, do you think computer science or IT majors have an easier rate of passing the A+ cert? I don't think computer science helps you very much for an IT certification, and A+ is very clearly an IT certification. And I don't think computer science folks really need to be taking an A+ cert. I don't think it helps them very much unless they know they want to get into the world of IT. This is one of the challenges we have, at least in the United States, maybe North America in general, is that four-year universities do not tend to focus on information technology for a number of different reasons. We won't go through those reasons or what they were thinking or how short-sighted they are here. Instead, we'll just say that if you want a technical, like a computer type degree in many of these 4-year institutions, your only choice is computer science. Your only choice is coding. That is the only degree that has anything to do with computers. It is completely ridiculous, but that's where most of these four-year universities, that's where they sit. There are some, very few, but there are some 4-year universities that do have information technology majors. I cannot say after looking through the classes for these majors, I can tell you that it's not a pure IT play, but it's pretty close. It's not bad. It's certainly not programming. I don't know if that's good. That's my basis for comparison. I'm not sure if that's good, but that's what it is. At least it's not programming. That's my new t-shirt. IT, at least it's not programming. The good part about that, though, is at least it does apply. You'll get a little bit of Windows. Maybe you'll get some Linux. Maybe you'll get some high-level information technology book learning from it. You'll get something out of that piece. Those folks will have a better job of passing the A+ than if you were a pure computer science major, I think. But if you're getting into a role, or you want to get into a role that deals with managing the desktop, managing the servers, managing and designing the networks, managing and designing security systems, then A+ is a good place to start, and you can move through the IT side of your career. And a lot of people who get their computer science degree immediately start on the IT side. They get a job in IT and that's where they go. And they never really end up using a lot of the computer science stuff. They got that degree so that they could present themselves as someone with a 4-year degree in a technical area, a technical computer related area. And I think that's valid. That's useful. That's probably, it's not exactly a perfect fit with IT, but it's close. Along the same lines, I got a 4-year degree from Florida State University. My degree is in business management. It has nothing to do with IT. So I often say this, and it's absolutely the case, is that technology gives you a chance to get in the door and learn from the ground up. And the better you are at learning and the faster you are at learning that, the more you are able to move up. If the 4-year degrees, if the 4-year majors in these universities are not going to teach you IT, then you got to learn it somehow. There are third-party places you can go that do have more of an IT focus. And you may even have a 4-year university in your backyard that actually does have a nice IT focus. There are a couple out there. There's a few. There's a handful. But for the most of us that are looking to get a college degree, you may notice that there's nothing specific to IT. We sort of have to take technical classes and then figure out the IT stuff on our own. And that's sort of the nature of where we are with learning these topics in North America today. We'll just have to keep an eye on it, see if that ever changes, see if it's modified. Now that there's a lot of buzz in the world about AI, I see that probably a lot of these universities may focus more on the data side of things. So it may even take their eye off of IT even more, as if that's even possible. But they could actually move off back over into the computer science side, which is certainly where big data and sifting through and collecting and finding a way to filter out and correlate that data is absolutely on the computer science side. That's not an IT function. The IT function would be, where do you store the data? How do you access the data quickly? How do you transfer large amounts of data? You're building out large networks. You're building out massive bandwidths. You are creating huge data storage arrays. There's an IT piece to that, but it's about supporting the effort of the data scientists. What a horrible term. And then somehow getting them to access that data in a timely fashion. So I think there's a mix there. that doesn't necessarily correlate exactly back, but it does give at least some of that perspective of things you can do. So anyway, along those lines, since we were talking about Florida State, this is from Anonymous, who said, when I looked up Professor Messer on Google, as I do every day, I came across your LinkedIn. Saw you're an FSU alum, as I just said. I'm alumni of Florida State University in Tallahassee, Florida. Do you have any collaborations with Florida State University? They call me all the time. They want $20. That's the extent of my collaborations with FSU. I feel like you're a very iconic person for tech certs. Well, I'd like to think so, but I don't know if that helps very much. Would be so good at being a professor there. Would not be a good professor there. would not be a very good professor. First, they don't have an IT program. They have no perspective of IT certifications, and I would just not be a good professor in front of people. Probably not. It wouldn't be the professor part that I'd have a problem with. It'd be the fact that my job would be as a professor at a university, and I just wouldn't. I'm not the person for that one. I think like many scenarios on the TV and on the YouTube, being a doctor on YouTube is probably more fun than being a doctor in real life. I think being the professor on YouTube, a lot more fun than being a professor at a university. I think it works out better this way. And in reality, I think I'm able to get in front of and teach more people this way. So I think I'm much more effective at getting this information out to the world with how we're doing it now, rather than doing it at a university. So I really just don't have any plans to get into the world of in-person or real-time training. I think doing it this way, this is probably the most real-time training we will do is this right here. And I think that's the way to do it. I think it's much more fun. Let's do one more question. We can get another question in. With these pieces, with this list of them. Let's see what other questions I want to sift through and find a good one here. We can kind of go out in this mix of different things. Well, this is actually allows me to kind of roll all of this up into a nice little package. We'll stick a bow on this. This question from Camden, who says, what made you interested in IT? I don't know if anyone's ever asked that question before. Let's see if I can answer it. What made you interested in IT? I was always interested in technology in general, which is interesting because I grew up during a time when technology was really emerging. There was not a lot of technology when I was very, very young. There were certainly not home-based computers. There was no internet. There was no YouTube. There was no Instagram. None of those things existed. We did not have a worldwide network. There was though this emergent, we had transistors. We had a way to put systems together in a way that created this digital world. And the emergence of the home computer allowed us to put that in our house and be able to work with these technologies. That was me growing up. When I was in high school was about the time that you could buy a computer and put it in your house. Up to that point, not possible. And then Apple and PET and a lot of these smaller companies, these startups, started creating their own computers and putting them out there. And what an amazing set of technologies that presented this. I was immediately intrigued by this device that I could put information into and it could give me information back. There was something about that was fascinating to me. I could not keep my hands off these keyboards. I wanted to learn everything I could learn about those. It was something that was an obsession. And I grabbed, at the time, the way that we got information was magazines. I would grab every computer magazine because magazines are relatively inexpensive. Grab tons of magazines. You would get these computer-based magazines. I would read through everything. I would understand half of it. Some of it was way over my head, but other parts I could get into. And very often there were these educational articles that taught you from the ground up. Let's learn about hard drives. It taught you about hard drives. Let's learn how to program. And you could write your own program. So I started writing my own programs. This is how I know I'm not a good programmer. Started taking what was in these books, copying them, learning how they worked, understanding the logic. And really that process turned into scripting for me. It turned into automation. It allowed me to understand how to write a batch file, how to then move that over to Linux and have a shell script, how to expand that into PowerShell and Python and Perl and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And as time went on, as I got into college, technology at that point was blowing up. It was the leaps that we were making with technology at that time. I guess if you tried to compare it to today, it's difficult to compare because in a year back then, we were making evolutionary changes to operating systems, to the hardware that we were using. We were jumping in major ways and creating more powerful technologies in a year. Now in a year, nothing may change much with technology. We might get a new CPU. But back then, we were getting entirely new systems, entirely new ways of implementing these technologies within the computers. And then IBM and Boca came out with their IBM personal computer and everything changed. That's when the world started for what we do, was with the IBM PC. That was it. That was a big company that created a standardized form of computing that everyone could use and that everyone could manufacture and that other operating systems could be written for it. So you had enormous companies like IBM, like Microsoft were created from that flurry of activity in technology. And that is what we were able to bring to the forefront. So when I got to college, there were still not a lot of courses and things you could do with technology, but there was computing. I worked in the FSU Computing Center. We had mainframes. We had liquid nitrogen cooled supercomputers. I got to learn about backups and tapes and hard drives and electrostatic plotters and chain printers and just an amazing set of technologies that we basically still use today in many different ways. Although not much of my computers today are liquid nitrogen cooled, but I think, why can't they be? So there's my project for the weekend. That is what got me interested in IT, was the accessibility to this technology. So at that point, it was easy to get a computer off the shelf. I had a computer in my apartment during college. This was really what positioned me well, that right out of school, got a job working as a field service technician, because at that point, the industry had matured enough that businesses were installing network operating systems. They had RAID arrays. There was all the technologies we use today. That was where they came from. So we talked today in our live stream about RAID. That's what I was using right out of college. I was putting together RAID arrays. In fact, a lot of my stories that talk about walking in to a company and one of the drives in their RAID array had failed 6 months ago, but they had no idea because it was in a RAID array. So at that point, we realized, let's swap the drive out. So I was part of the process of, how do you fix this? Well, you take this drive out, you put a new drive in. At that point, the drives were not hot pluggable. Power down, take out the old drive, put the new drive in, power it on. Now let's step through the process of regenerating the array, resynchronizing to that new drive. And that's what we did. The things that you learned today, the things we talked about today, are exactly the things that I was interested in and learned 30 years ago. Another good example of things you're learning today, you're going to learn and use 30 years from now. And that's what got me interested in IT, just the technology in general. I really felt, because I came from a very small town in North Florida. I came from a town very agricultural. To today, even today, the county where I grew up still does not have a red, yellow, green traffic light. Very rural, very in the country in North Florida. And when you're in that position and you're not interested in farming, I wasn't interested in owning a watermelon patch. There were people in town doing very well as farmers, but it wasn't for me. I knew that I would be very bad at it. But here was something I could do. Here was something that enabled me to eventually have a career and be able to support myself and my family. And I could see that in the technology. I could see that other people struggling with it, and I could see that it was very easy for me to understand. So I'm like, that's what I should go with right there. That is the technology. That is the thing I should focus on, because I see there's a pathway. I still didn't know what the pathway was. I didn't understand there were jobs that could send me around the world. They put me on a plane, send me over here and go talk to people in Bangkok, in Australia, in Japan, in Korea, in London, in Canada. You know, I didn't know that's what it would take me to, and certainly didn't know that it would end up like this on these streams. Didn't even think about the technology that would be coming in the future. But there was something there that told me this could be big. This could be something we should focus on. And so I did. And indeed, that's what kept me going with it. And I think that's why, if you are at all interested in the world of IT, for no other reason, it's an enabler. It gives you options wherever. It doesn't matter your background. It doesn't matter your nationality. It doesn't matter your family history. It doesn't matter how much money you have or don't have. Doesn't matter. The computer knows none of this. All it knows is, do you know what you're doing? Do you know what you're typing in at the keyboard? Can you do this? Can you make it do the thing we're trying to do? Can you solve the problem, or can you understand the issue that we are trying to fix? It's a problem-solving issue. Computing doesn't care about the world. It doesn't care about you as an individual. It cares about what you know. And that means anybody can do this. I love that part about technology. Love it. It is the thing that allows me to work with people from many different areas of the world, talk to many different people from different backgrounds. Some people have degrees and doctorates in very technical things. Other people like me came from a farming town in North Florida that had power. We had power and water, and that was kind of it. But anyone can build this together, put all of these skills on the table, and really turn it into something. And I think that, to me, is the most exciting part about technology. Ironically, the most exciting part about technology isn't the technology. It's what you can do with the technology. And I think that's what all of this is about. This entire thing that we do at ProfessorMesser.com, this entire training, and we talk about, is this certification better or not? Is this thing that we do better or not? Are we doing it the right way? Are we learning the right things? Those are important questions, and we have to make sure we're answering them in the right way. But ultimately, what we are building is a way to move up to the next level. That's what this is about. So this really is the most important job I will ever have, because it really does give us that next level of what we're trying to do. It gives everyone a chance to become successful in their career, in their life, in their family, because ultimately it's not the technology, it's what we do with the technology. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We do one of these study groups every month. I've got another one next week for A+, and of course, we still have our Network Plus and Security Plus ones. If you want to know when our next live event is going to be, it will be at our calendar at ProfessorMesser.com/calendar. We would love it if you could check in with us and join us on the next one. If you like this video, it would be great if you could give us a thumbs up and consider maybe even subscribing to our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it, and we love that you're here. We hope to see you next week, and we will see you next time on the A+ study group. Thanks, everybody.